Hmm. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode on the George Habib podcast. I want to wish you guys all a happy New Year's out there. We are in a new year, hopefully a better year than last year, but yeah, let's see how it goes. So, to fit in with the theme of me bringing on guests to talk about what's kind of not going right in our lives, what we can do to be healthier, happier, better, I am bringing today's guest, which is Leah Drew.
Hello.
How's it going, Leah? How are you feeling?
It's going pretty good today. Yeah, I'm super happy to be here. Been a beautiful Sunday. I got to dance today and yeah, I had some things come up mentally and emotionally today, so I got to move my way through it through some amazing dance and around some amazing community. It's been good.
Well, this is certainly a lot more optimistic than my day because I just slipped on ice and hit myself.
Oh no, that does
Uh,
not sound so enjoyable.
you got to deal with that with winter in Canada.
Yeah, we get some good winter here, but usually the sun in Colorado leads the snow and ice to melt fairly quickly. But are you doing okay? Is your body feeling all right?
It's not the first time I fell. It's not going to be the last time. I'm alive. I'm here. Let's do
I'm
this.
glad that you're here.
So, Leah, tell us about yourself. Where is Leah right now? Physically, mentally, where's she at with her projects? What do you do? Let the audience know more about you.
Where am I at? I feel like that's such a huge open-ended question and um yeah, I'm feeling a lot of momentum and feeling a lot of excitement as we start 2024. 2023 was a really interesting year for me. I feel like the theme of the year was burn all the shit down that is not working for you. And let me tell you, did I burn the shit down? Um, and I moved my life. I left an old community. I started a new community. I just deepened my friendships. I found myself in some really challenging yet educational intimate relationships that taught me a lot. And yeah, just like the last quarter of the year, I found myself really stepping into this very confident, grounded power, and really connecting with my feminine essence that's allowed me to really see myself in a new light. And I feel like it's driven me into 2024 with a lot of clarity, a lot of confidence, a lot of empowerment, and just this like deep understanding of my self-worth and what I am here to do in the world, and also like what I want to do, like what my path is, what feels aligned for me. And last year was just looking at all these things that I took into my life, that I started to do, that I started to act on, that I built my life around, that really weren't actually in alignment for me, that didn't feel good. And I was doing it because I thought that's what I should be doing, or that's what somebody else told me is the way to do it. And yeah, so I am in a place where I'm just feeling really excited for what's coming. I'm starting to foster some beautiful communities for sisterhood, for retreats, for co-ed retreats, for female only retreats. Like all these things are starting to come together. My podcast is moving and flowing, and I get to have epic conversations with people like yourself on their podcast, which has just been so fun for me. Yeah, so I'm feeling like I'm in a really beautiful space right now, and I feel like I just like planted, well, not just. I feel like a couple months ago I planted these beautiful new flowers in this like really healthy flower bed, and I feel like the roots are starting to like really dig themselves into the ground, and you're starting to see like the first bud of the flower coming up, which is weird because it's like we're still in the dead of winter right now, right? And normally that's like hibernation season, but yeah, I'm just feeling myself starting to blossom and bloom and like share my love with so many people around me, which feels really good.
Well, you're definitely sharing the love because I gotta tell you, Leah, you that was one of the most energetic, spirited, and positive intros I've ever had on this channel.
Fuck yeah, I'm winning.
Usually, we have people who identify as dead inside, so maybe they're not as spirited. But when I look at you, I guess something's working because when I look at you, Leia, I see someone who I can describe as full of vigor. Do you know vigor?
Mm,
Like
yes.
energy, So, like, definitely there's some proof to the concept right there. In terms of those communities you're talking about, in terms of what you're doing right now, like, what are you currently doing like as an occupation?
Yeah. So I call myself a mind body healing guide, a trauma informed mind body healing guide. And my intention is to help people connect more deeply with themselves, to enhance their sense of awareness, and to feel more empowered over their ability to support themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and energetically as well. And I have come to really understand my gifts in the world. And one of my gifts is the ability to help people really deeply connect with their heart and expand the capacity in and around their heart to take down the walls, the things that are like holding them back from not only being able to give love, but also receive love. And love is more than just like, an intimate partnership. I love you per se, right? Love expands in so many aspects of your life. It's the way that you treat yourself, it's the way that you connect with the community, the friends around you. It's the way that you connect with your business. It's the way that you step into leading in the world in a way that influences the people around you, whether you're a mother, whether you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, whether you are working in a corporate space, like whether you're just a friend. It doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing. When you can connect more deeply and expand into love, you get to bring beautiful experiences into your life and just have and feel more abundance. And the intention through what I do is to help people learn to put all these tools in their toolbox so that they can better navigate the experience of life. Because let's face it, like being a human being is super challenging sometimes, right? There's like ups and there's downs. Sometimes you fall on
100%.
ice. Like, you know what I mean? Like things happen. And what I see is that people are really lacking the knowledge and the information to better support themselves. And, you think about your early childhood education. Like, we're not learning self regulation tools. Most people aren't. We're not learning mindfulness. We're not learning breathing techniques. We're not learning how to communicate in a nonviolent way. We're not learning how to foster community. Like, all these things are super important for the vigor, the vitality that you see in me, that I have been able to foster over the last 10 years of my life by really diving deep into my physical pain, my mental pain, my emotional pain, and learning, okay, this sucks. I don't like how this feels. How do I change it? And so that's a lot of what I do in the world, and really leaning into fostering my sisters right now and creating spaces for women to come together and to heal in community. Co-ed spaces are things that exist in my life as well, but just feeling this really deep draw to sisterhood right now, and to foster that. And I think it's really important for men to have their brotherhoods and for sisters to have their sisterhoods, because it's where we heal. Like, deep community is where we get to heal, where we get to grow, where we get to have these reflections of ourselves, and where we get to expand into this like epic experience of being human.
So it's not just the mental you're talking about, you're still talking about the physical.
All of it. All of it's super important.
And I want to ask you because I can't imagine you had this mindset all your life. I imagine you went through some difficulty because you talk about the mental health, you talk about physical pain, you talk about all these things. You talk about it as if you're coming in from experience. You've experienced a hardship, which probably sucked, which is why it's called a hardship. But it seems to me like looking at you right now, you overcame it. So before I want to talk about the tools of how you overcame such things, I want to ask you, what was that hardship?
Mm. There's been a lot of different hardships in my life, and I know one of them you and I have related on deeply
Mhm.
already, and I'm happy to share a little bit more about that. But growing up, I found myself in a really emotionally unsupportive household, and it wasn't my parents' fault. They had and were using the tools at their disposal that they had at that point in time, right? Like, they were doing the best that they could. I always had food. I always had a roof over my head. I really could do whatever I wanted as a child, but I didn't have a lot of emotional support. And I ended up experiencing that through stress, through anxiety, through like emotional dysregulation. I always felt this like sensation of like being out of control inside my body, and I hated it. Years later, I started developing some chronic symptoms and I would complain and complain and complain. I saw all these doctors and no one discovered that I had a pancreatic tumor growing that ended up being the size of an orange before
Oh,
it started hemorrhaging. And as one of the things that you and I related on was this internal bleeding, which is not an experience I wish on anybody. And I'm sure you feel the same way. It's like I hope.
there's a few I would wish it on. I'm not gonna lie, but not on good people.
Yeah, it's not something for me personally that I would want anybody to experience.
Mm,
It sucks, right?
yeah.
Um, but I ended up having major abdominal surgery and no one really like informed me and educated me about like what was happening. And I was 16 at the time. No one helped me understand how this was going to go and what I could expect on the other side of the major abdominal surgery. Like your pancreas is in the back of your body. And so when they opened me up, they had to make like a 6-inch incision on my stomach, and they ended up having to push all my organs to the side to get to the tumor to not disrupt the encapsulated tumor that was there.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, it was pretty intense. And I didn't realize that until I got into college and I was like learning pre-med and I was like, whoa, like that was a serious thing that I went through. And so the following years, I started developing some really severe mental health challenges, mental health symptoms, chronic health symptoms, like GI issues, and eventually chronic pain. And I got to a point where I was going through college and this is like the rise of Instagram. And I started seeing all of these like beautiful women on Instagram, like with these super tone and fit bodies. And I was like, oh, that's it. Like that's going to give me happiness. Right. And I'm sure and someone who's listening can probably relate to this. You might be able to relate to it yourself. It's like,
I don't know if I ever saw beautiful women and said that's for me.
okay, but guys, like I'm sure maybe you saw like some
Yeah,
dudes
yeah.
and you're like,
Like, there's definitely
that's
those influencers out there like
yeah.
Noel and God rest his soul, Joe Static.
Mhm.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I can completely understand. But in my time, I'm not sure. I think you're younger than me.
How old are
In
you?
my I'm 29.
Okay, I'm 30, so I'm actually 1 year older than you.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You look way younger.
I'm definitely not.
Okay, well,
I don't want to
do you
relive my
remember
20s either. I'm good on that.
do you remember in high school, I don't know if it was an American thing, but in the Middle East when I had high school, we used to follow this guy called Ziz.
No, I don't know who that is.
Oh well, he's dead now. But cuz substance abuse. But basically that was cuz I feel like there was this period 2010, 2011 where everyone was all about the 8-pack or 6
Yeah.
pack. Like
Yeah.
specifically that. No, not legs, not arms, just the 8-pack.
Yeah.
And it was because of this Australian influencer called Ziz, like right before the Instagram era, and people were obsessed with that. So I get what you're saying. For me, like when I see these influencers, these male influencers, I definitely want to be as fit as they are.
Yeah, and there's like this sense of like if I have that, then I'll have or be blank, right? Whether it's happiness or whether it's you get the girl or whether it's you get the job, like whatever that is, it's like if I look like that and if I'm like that, then I'm going to be this. I thought that that was going to bring me happiness. And I was going through a really tough time in college between friendships, between relationships, being, transferred between so many schools. And I was like, oh, okay, like this is how I'm going to find happiness and connects my mind and my body. And I thought that that 6-pack, 8-pack was the epitome of health. And I ended up doing a bodybuilding show and I competed and I got to that point where I had like 10% body fat, maybe less. I was like really, really lean, unhealthily lean. And I took a step back and I was like, oh my God, I'm actually incredibly unhappy. This didn't connect my mind and my body. This did the opposite. This didn't help my mental health. This made it worse. I found myself standing at the edge of a building, ready to commit suicide and jump off the building. And
Oh,
I had to like hit the stop button and be like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, this is not how it has to be. This is not what I want for my life. I want to be here, but I don't want to be here in the version of myself that I have been. And so it was this huge wake up call for me to start to look at myself and figure out like what can I do to start reducing my physical pain, my mental and emotional pain, to figure out how to feel more in control over how to support myself. And that's really when I ended up like diving into the world of functional movement, of personal development, of spirituality, and started really coming to understand the mind body connection and how all of these things actually play a role in the experience, which is you. And that was a big part of how I ended up here. And now I get to take all that medicine and all the experiences that I've had over the years and offer it to others in a way that supports them by being a mirror so that they can look deeper at themselves and learn how to do the same thing for themselves.
But Leah, I gotta ask, while you're dealing with all this stuff that, you weren't feeling great, you're kind of feeling worse mentally, and as you said, you're considering ending your life. Was there no support group around you? Like, did the hospitals not offer a therapist? Was there no counseling involved? Was there no uh, support group or community?
I had a couple of things. I definitely did not have the community that I have now.
Mhm.
There's a couple of people in our community that are younger in their early 20s and like good God, like I'm almost jealous that they are getting to experience what we have in our community because in my opinion, we have the most incredible community that I've been a part of or that I've ever seen. And might be biased, but it's fine. Tips and toes, I love you. Uh, and but like had I had that at in my early 20s, I think that my life would have looked a lot different. I was in therapy. I had very general talk therapy. It wasn't getting to the root of my trauma. It wasn't helping me understand how to move through things with embodiment practices, somatic practices. It wasn't helping me understand the role of epigenetics and how my environment was playing a role in the expression of my symptoms, what I was feeling, what I was experiencing. So yeah, like I had some of these things that Western medicine had like handed to me, but it wasn't getting to the root. It was trying to treat the symptom and it wasn't helping me understand why, right? It was like, here, take this pill to help your stress, right? Like go work out to like help your body, to connect with your body. It wasn't helping me look at trauma or past experiences or things that were really playing a big role in what was going on.
Well, that is the Western healthcare system. It's a very standardized system. They kind of try to find like one basic treatment that will statistically benefit as much people as possible on a budget. So what you end up having is, well, I can only speak for the Canadian system, and it is free. I know the American system's pretty expensive,
Mhm.
but Canadian system is free, but it sucks. So you end up seeing a doctor, hopefully after 13 hours in the waiting room, which people bring an iPad or a pillow for, and you'll end up with the most disinterested, no time on their hands doctor you've ever met. They'll ask you for your basic symptoms. They'll throw some pills at you. And these pills, as we know, they have all these side effects. And then they'll throw more pills at you. Good luck if you go and get a diagnosis. And, you know, they set you on your way. But I think, and this was my experience with a previous illness, when you send people on their way without explaining anything, you're just building up anxiety. They start Googling. They're like, okay, like my body's not getting any better. No one's listening. I'm starting to have all new symptoms as time goes on. So you start going down this pipeline of freaking out, freaking out. You're not sleeping. You're not eating right. And then, boom, before you had a physical symptom, now you've got a mental symptom. Now you've got
Mhm.
anxiety.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
want to ask you, Leah, maybe it's similar to the American system, but do you feel like overall the Western system of hospital care is just, it's not working? They
Yeah.
can treat an emergency, but they can't treat in general.
Totally. We have great acute care and really shitty chronic care. And that's why we're seeing such a massive rise in autoimmune diseases, like chronic symptoms, like all these things. And people are just being handed a pill for it or being treated in the same box as everyone else. And they're not feeling like they're really being heard, or then they're being sent to like 5 or 10 different specialists, and these specialists aren't even talking to each other. And so you're not even getting this holistic approach. You're getting this one little route of viewing what's happening. And I think it's a problem. Like people aren't getting this holistic approach to understanding their body. Doctors are educating based off of what they're learning through the education system, and the education system is failing us in my opinion in many ways because it's not helping us understand the deeper roots of things. And it's again it's an acute approach to care, right? It's a here, take this band-aid. I hope this helps for a while. Even
Right.
people with medication, they're not oftentimes being educated on the long-term effect of the medication or being told, hey, this is meant to support you right now in the interim until you can better support yourself and learn the tools to do so. And so, yeah, I see this across the board. And I do see some changes starting to happen within the medical system, but it's not happening fast enough. And that is where, in my opinion, we as humans get to take radical responsibility for where we're at. Yes, listen to your doctor, see your doctor, take in what they have to tell you, and use your own discernment to decide what's best for you, what's right for you, because that might not be what your doctor tells you. Right. And that's where you get to listen to what's happening externally and what's coming to you externally, and also listening to what's happening internally for you, right? Your intuition, your knowledge. And when I talk about knowledge, I'm not talking about book knowledge. I'm talking about, right, like that deeper intelligence within you, the things that you just know, right? Like sometimes you're like, I know I need this today, right? Um, so yeah, I do see this as something that's happening across the board. And I think that we have a really beautiful opportunity right now in the world and society to start to take more responsibility for our health, our mindset, our mental health, our bodies. Like the way we take care of ourselves gets to change, but we have to be the ones to initiate that.
So basically, you're saying we should be our own advocates in a time where like a system one just wants to brush you off, say they did the minimum, move on, next patient, please.
Yeah. And never give up on yourself. Like continue learning, continue exploring, be a curious little kid, right? Like, what happens if I try this? What's over here? What's over there? Like, yeah, be your own advocate and try new things and keep learning about yourself, your body, your mind, your emotions, like all the things.
Right. So then this leads me to this question where it's like, do you feel your case where a doctor brushed you off and you kind of had to figure out things by yourself, how to recover yourself? Do you feel like you're a one off, or our generation, the millennial generation, this is becoming a more common occurrence every day? Like every day, we are going through stuff that right now we can manage it because we're relatively young, I guess. We still have that healing factor or something. But as more time goes on and goes on, we're actually digging ourselves into a health trap where, let's say, 10 years, 20 years from now, we've kind of fucked ourselves over.
Hmm.
Like, for example, we're always slouching, we're not sleeping. Some of us go outside, we drink like crazy, smoke like crazy, do a bunch of other stuff. And we feel invulnerable now. Like, we feel like nothing can harm us now. But, like, again, 20 years, we're going to see the result of that.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is like helping people understand that you're not going to see chronic symptoms develop right now. It takes at least 7 to 10 years for you to start developing chronic symptoms. So when people come to me and when clients start to work with me, like we trace things back. If it's an emotion and they're feeling this particular thing, it's like, okay, well, when did you first feel this? When did you first experience this? Let's go back because it didn't start now unless you're in some sort of acute accident or had some sort of acute injury or like right like a breakup, like where you're like emotionally dysregulated because something just happened. And even in that it's like, okay, well, what is this triggering from your past, right? And being able to look at what was the runway that led you to exactly where you are right now that's leading you to experience all these things. I always remind people that we as humans, when we walk through life, we carry this backpack, and that backpack is full of bricks. And those bricks are the experiences that we've had from the past. And the challenging ones are usually the ones that our brains remember the most, and that we end up being triggered by the most because our brain, the way that it works is it's on watch. We're always trying to look for the things that caused us pain in the past in the present as to not re-experience that pain. And when we get triggered, it's usually because our brain is like trying to prevent that past experience from, again, being re experienced. And so we're kind of like on watch all the time for these things that hurt us in the past. And so being able to understand, like, what are you actually on watch for? Right. And this is kind of more like the mental, the emotional stuff, but even in the physical body. For example, if you were walking and you fell off a curb and you twisted your ankle, every time you rewalk the curb, chances are your brain is going to be like so mindful and like on edge about not falling off the curb, which is therefore going to lead you to kind of be on, again, be on edge and be really thinking about, how do I prevent that? Right. And so it's looking at these things and being able to build awareness around all of them as to be able to live a more joyful, a more grounded, a less stressful, and like just a better experience in your present life, right?
Right. And you're saying you see this basically all the time with your community, the community that you manage and run. Could you tell us more? Not any specific private information, but could you tell us more about what you're seeing with your community? Like, what is the crappy stuff they come in with? You know, what are the
Mm.
problems, physical, mental, they come in with? What do you do to help them get out of that?
Yeah, well, awareness is the first step. Actually, right now, I'm guiding a group of about 15 or 16 women through a book club slash women's circle. We meet every 2 weeks and we discuss this book that we're reading. The book is by Mama Gina, is her name. The book is called Pussy, a Reclamation. And it talks all about, yeah, it sounds funny, but and that's part of it too, right? It's like people have this aversion to the word pussy, right? And
No, it's not.
actually,
It's not that, Leah. Half my audience are based in the Middle East and are very traditional. So
yeah, well,
I'm just imagining.
totally cool.
I'm just
I'm an
imagining some
untraditional.
middle-aged Arab ladies going, "Oh my."
Well, and this is part of it, right? And so when we think about this, we get to think about, and this is what I saw come up this week. We get to think about how has culture and society actually influenced the way that we think about our bodies, the way that we think about our genitals, the way that we think about like how we treat ourselves, and especially for women. Like we've learned so much through culture and through society that again, especially for women, that we shouldn't be outspoken, that we shouldn't be super powerful and stand in our power, that we should kind of like sit back. Or like a couple of things that came up this week for the ladies is like being super mindful of like how they carry themselves in their bodies, and like being mindful of like how a man looks at them, or being super weary of connecting with a man because they think that the intention is always going to be, maybe a sexual intention or something that doesn't actually support them in a way that makes them feel safe. And so, especially for women, I'm seeing so often that we're down regulating our power. We're downplaying our power. We're holding back our voice. We're not speaking and communicating the things that we actually want to say, that we actually want to feel, because we are fearful of how the people around us are going to react and respond. And that's a lot of what I see in most people that I work with is like they hold themselves back. They're not allowing themselves to step into their power. They're not allowing their authenticity to show because they're afraid of what someone might think. And they're told that that's not how a lady should act. And so if someone is listening to this and they are triggered by the word pussy, it's like, why? you know? And I know, like, even regardless, like, culturally, what has culture taught you? Because let me tell you what, every woman has the ability to birth a child. And like, your private parts, your pussy is literally a magical portal that allows life to be birthed through you. It's incredible. And the shame that we hold around it, like it's mind-blowing. And that is where our power comes from. And when a woman stands in her power, she actually allows a man to stand more in his power. And that's something that we're, I think, starting to come into in society, is recognizing that like the masculine and the feminine balance is so important so that we can be our most expressive, most authentic, most powerful, most impactful selves as human beings. Um, So, yeah, a little bit of a tangent there, but you asked me what I'm seeing right now in my
Listen, I'm
community.
enjoying this tangent. Please continue. But yeah, like you said the balance of the feminine and the masculine. Do you mean the balance within a person, or do you
Yes,
mean like one person being feminine, one person being masculine?
it's
Because
both.
we're a lot of the times these days we're hearing like there's no like balance with femininity or masculinity. It's just neutral, gone, fluid, like it not structured, basically.
Well, it's both. Every person has, regardless of what gender you identify with, every person has both the masculine and the feminine
Mm.
energies and essences within them, right? The masculine is the structure, it's the doing, it's the planning, it's the container. And the feminine is the nurturing, the soft, the loving, the flow, right? The ability to connect with the emotional self. And to find balance within yourself as an individual, you get to learn how to be with both of those, how to allow the masculine presence and the feminine presence to do this dance with each other. And that's part of the balance. They support each other, right? And also then once you're doing that within yourself, you then get to do that within two different individuals, right? And so as you start to dive deeper into your inner work and learn both of these energies, learn about them and work with them within yourself, when you now start to interact with someone else who's doing the same thing within their masculine and feminine energies, you actually get to connect in a more balanced and a healthier way because you're being with the structure and the doing, and you're also being able to be with the nurturing and the softness and the emotional self. And right, it's like the feminine and essence is to like to sit back and receive, and the masculine essence is to move forwards and to dive in and to do the things. And you think about if you're too much in your masculine, chances are you're going to burn out. You're going to get fatigued. You might end up with mental health challenges because you're trying to do too much. And then if you're in the opposite spectrum where you're too much in the feminine, right, you might not actually get anything done and accomplish anything because you're just sitting back and receiving and just in this like flowy emotional self all day long. And
Mm.
yeah, it's
You're
good to,
just letting everything happen to you,
yeah.
and you're not
And
talking back.
you need the balance of both.
Mm. So that's what you do within your community. You get a lot of women coming in, mentally, physically. I don't know how you would put it. Would you say like they're kind of just going with the flow, even if it's a pretty negative flow? Like they're ignoring what their body is telling them, or they're not realizing mentally they need to stick up for themselves and stop letting people talk down to them. And then you kind of work with them to make sure like those things get resolved. Because I gotta tell you, Leah, me, I'm not a woman, obviously, clearly. So I cannot pretend to understand what they go through, but I can see what I observe. And I feel it's sad that in this day and age, I see a lot of girls. I mean, I have sisters, I have my mother, I have my baby cousins who are girls. I don't want any negative thing to happen to them. But I'm always seeing how, like, a lot of girls these days, they're just taking it. They're taking the bullshit, you know? Like, yeah, I read the study how, like, a lot of women won't even report a heart attack
Mhm.
because it's like, oh, no, I don't want to inconvenience anybody. It's like, dude, you just had a fucking heart attack.
Sexual assault, heart attack, like
Yeah,
so many
and
things.
I've even in university, like I noticed like a lot of girls like who are my friends, they'll be like, "This guy did this to me." It's like, dude, that's rape.
Yeah.
Talk to someone. And then they're like, "No, no, no, I don't want to get that person in trouble." It's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Mhm.
Why is it maybe it's not a woman thing, maybe it's a generational thing, but why is it that a lot of ladies are keeping it inside? Why do they feel like they are burdening people by actually like pursuing what is better for them health wise, mental wise? Like, why? It's very selfless, but like, dude, be a little selfish.
Mhm.
I want to ask you that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different reasons for that, and it totally depends on each person, right? Everyone has an individual experience. You know, if we look back at culture and we look back at generations past, for a while, women were just giving all of the power to the men, to the masculine. And, you know, you think back even further, it's like for many centuries, women have had their power taken away from them. And Women used to be beat all the time. We have like this witches, like the Salem witch trials. Like women were literally burned at the stake for dropping into their intuition, like using their magical powers, like actually like giving their medicine and using their freedom of speech and vocalizing like what's happening and what they're seeing and what they're feeling and what they're experiencing. And you think about like your mother, your grandmother, your great great grandmother, thinking about how they lived and what their life experience was like. Oftentimes, they may not have been in the most emotionally supportive relationship, but the man was the one that worked and supported the family. And so the woman just decided to sit back and just like, okay, I'm going to take care of the kids and like whatever, not really worry about this. Right.
Mhm.
And so when it comes to looking at what's coming up for you as an individual, it's really important to look at the generations past, specifically the three generations before you, but also like your lineage. If you know further back, that's really important to look at as well. I can share a story from my experience as I was diving into a lot of the ancestral trauma. I was asking my parents about their parents and their great grandparents and all these parts of my family. I wanted to learn, what were they like? Like, how did they act? How did they present themselves? And I'll never forget growing up, my papa, my dad's grandfather, he
That's cute, by the way. That's adorable. Papa.
Yeah, it is cute. But the only time that I saw him was in a a care facility with really, really intense dementia and Alzheimer's. He couldn't
Mhm.
speak, literally. I don't remember ever having a conversation with my papa. And when my dad started telling me more about some of the experiences from our family, I came to find out that there was a lot of things that were brushed under the rug that nobody ever talked about. Drug use, physical abuse, like really, really traumatic, intense things. And my papa never spoke up. He never was somebody that communicated about what was happening in his life, what happened to his sisters, what happened in his family. And he just like shoved it all down. And what happens when you shove all that intensity down is that it starts to manifest as physical symptoms. And so when I learned all this, I was sitting there and I was like, holy crap, like to see him in a space where he actually literally could not speak because there is some sort of connection with the fact that he didn't speak up earlier on in his life. I just found that to be really fascinating. And as I grew up, I found that was challenged with similar experiences, that I found it challenging to speak up because either I wasn't supported or no one was going to listen to me, or I had all these beliefs around it based off of experiences and ancestral experiences that I got to work through. And, that was a really powerful experience for me, learning these things about him and seeing how the symptoms ended up manifesting in him. And then recognizing that I actually get to be the one to change this pattern in my family. And when you start to do that and you change these patterns, you don't end up passing down those expressed genes to your future children. And that's what some of the most important, in my opinion, the most important thing about diving deeper into your healing work and into your trauma, into your ancestral trauma, into the emotional stuff that comes up for you, is that when we look at epigenetics, which is the study of your environment and how it actually influences your genetic expression. So, which genes are turned on and which genes are turned off in regards to expression. Um, Ancestral trauma and trauma in your present life is really important to work through. And as you do that, you actually start to turn off these genes that might be leading you to express chronic health symptoms, chronic disease symptoms, chronic pain, like whatever it might be, mental health symptoms. And when you do that, you now pass down a set of genetics to your children that where these genes are not constantly being expressed. And so that leads to you having healthier offspring.
So there's a lot of science behind it. So
Mhm.
basically, for the future generations, you're doing a service by being healthier.
Totally. Absolutely.
Because for me, it's easy to see that stress, keeping it all in, it does manifest physically. Like for me, like I get hives, like I get rashes
Mm.
everywhere. My ears ring even louder. and I don't know, just all a bunch of other like messy stuff I'm not getting into.
And those are like your body's way of communicating with you.
Mm,
Like your symptoms and your discomfort, I always say they're messages from your body to your body
mm.
asking for more love and more attention. And when you
But
can
like,
listen to
I
them,
can't imagine it going like further than that, like actually getting passed on to the next generation. I can imagine like, me mentally, if I'm not doing well mentally, I pass that on to my kids just through the consequence of maybe I'm yelling at them more, maybe God forbid I'm hitting them, maybe I'm just like, or just emotionally isolating them and I'm never around. Like not me specifically, but I'm talking about like in general, how
mhm,
like mental health kind of passes on. But you're saying there's like a genetic component to it, like the crappier you feel, the crappier your mental health, your physical health. Like, let's say you're a chain smoker, you're an alcoholic. Let's say you're always in a flight or fight response from constant abuse. You're saying that that's physically permeating into your DNA code,
mhm,
or I forgot what it's called, the genetic code,
yeah.
that, once two people make a kid, their codes pass on to that kid.
Totally. Yeah.
Mhm.
You react based off of what you learn from your parents and what you learn growing up in the world around you. You also react based off of your genetic expression and your genes. And so your cells have these little almost like ears. Let's call them ears. Your cells have these little ears on them and they're constantly listening. They're listening to the things that you say to yourself in your head. They're listening to the things that you say out loud. They're listening to the things that people say to you, and all of that influences how your body physiologically acts and responds, and how you actually act and respond.
Mm. And do you think like this is a new thing? Because I'm always hearing with like previous generations, like my parents, for example, my friends' parents, oh, you guys have become softer. Oh, you guys are having all these mental issues. It's from the internet, it's from social media. Oh, you guys, like we never dealt with this kind of stuff when we were kids. So like they kind of make us, it's like they're gaslighting us in a way where it's like we're the defective generation. Like we are the malfunctioning product, when it's like, mom, dad, like I bet you guys had a ton of problem in your time, but no one spoke about it. And when someone kind of committed suicide, no one spoke about it. So did you ever have any uncles who disappeared out of nowhere and no one would
Mhm.
talk about it? And did your parents kind of ever have moments where they flipped out and started hitting you because possibly their parents hit them, and so on and so on? And if you guys were such a perfect generation, well, this is specifically Lebanese. Like, if you guys were so perfect, how come you had a literal civil war?
Yeah.
So is this like a new thing with us, or is it something that we're just starting to notice that's like being brought to light? Like now we're starting to have a name for it because like the mental health field has actually expanded more, and we're recognizing what before existed but didn't have a name.
I think it's all of it, like we talked about with the masculine and the feminine balance before, regardless of culture, regardless of where you're in the world, we are shifting from a more masculine way of living and being to a little bit more feminine way of being, but not into just the feminine. Like, I think we're finding this balance between the two. And like you said, like, yeah, I think we are becoming softer and we fucking need that. Like, we need to connect with our hearts. We need to connect with our emotions. We need to connect with the softness, with the receiving, with the ease, because we've lived in this society where we've been so masculine dominant, where we've been so doing, so just like avoidant of how we're feeling, which I think has been a big component of leading to mental health challenges and a rise in mental health diseases, right? And like you mentioned, like we used to brush everything under the rug. And we're not doing that so much anymore. And I do think that technology plays a positive and a negative role in all of this, right? Because through technology, we actually have more accessibility. We get to learn. We get to understand more of all of these concepts. And it also challenges us in different ways as well, because it does add a whole nother component and a whole nother level to what we get to face on a daily basis. A lot of people aren't mindful of the amount of technology use that they engage in on a regular basis, which leads to challenges with hormones, their dopamine levels, their happiness levels, their attention span, right? Their lack of connection with people around them because they're sitting on their phone scrolling. Like, how many times do you walk in? I'll ask you, when's the last time you walked into a public space? Anywhere.
I do that regularly.
Okay, how many people do
But
you see
but there
sitting?
was a point where I would never, like a few years back, where I would just never leave the house, always gaming, just want to be alone, isolating.
Mhm.
I get what you're saying.
But
And
even
yeah, and
when
I do agree with you, like social media is giving us the illusion of being involved, but
yeah,
realistically, we're not even like giving anyone a handshake in a while.
no. But even when you walk into a public space, like,
Mm.
do you see someone on their phone?
Always,
Always, right? And
always.
it's leading to this lack of connection around you as well. Like, what would happen if you actually turned your phone off for a day? How many people would you talk to, say hello to, connect with that you wouldn't have because you had your phone in your hand, right?
You'd have a lot of meaningful conversations and relationships, that's for sure. But you know what's scary, Leah? When
Tell
people
me.
don't have their phones, they're experiencing anxiety.
Because of that dopamine. That's the problem with technology. If you haven't watched The Social Dilemma, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched it, when you finish listening to this epic conversation, go and watch it because it really highlights the challenges of social media and what it's actually doing to your brain and to your body. And so, part of why you feel anxiety when you put down your phone is because you're no longer getting these instantaneous dopamine hits. And so that leads to a lack of the dopamine hit, which leads to the stress, the anxiety, like all those challenges where you're like, "Oh my god, like I'm not getting anything. Like I'm not happy, I'm not fulfilled." Like that instant gratification, you're not receiving it because you don't have your phone in your hand.
Yeah. It's basically a lot of people not being able to get out of comfort zone. And to me, in my opinion, if you've seen my previous videos, I do believe like government, whether you want to call them the government, the companies, the corporations, whether you want to call it just people trying to make a quick buck, I do believe they're kind of like engineering society into like a quick hit fix society where you just want junk food now, you want to have likes on your Instagram, you want to watch pornography, you just want like I thought what's it called? Instant gratification, you just said, I believe.
Mhm.
And like you're not really thinking in the long term where you just want like a long, healthy life with a healthy partner, producing healthy kids. And at the end of the day, just being able to look back in your life and say, hey, this is a satisfying life.
Yeah.
So I appreciate talking about that, and I do want to end this on a positive note. It's not ending. I'm just pointing out I want to end this on a positive note. So before we get to that positive note, where I ask you what you are doing for your community out there, your clients, the people you're caring for, and giving life advice, I want to ask you because we talk about how you should be soft. Some people think that's good. You, for example, some people think that's bad. Probably the older generations, people like me, I think there needs to be a balance. Because
Mhm.
how soft is too soft, Leah? Like, how soft is it to the point where, like, you're just crying for attention and you're not really trying to get the help you need to put you on your feet? You like the attention, because I've experienced this. Like, and I used to have a lot of health problems. I used to experience enjoying the attention that I would get for once when people would look at me and see a sick individual and they would like either like put the spotlight for me for once in my life. Like everyone's listening. Hey, listen to my problems, listen to my problems. So yeah, like again, at what point is it you're so soft, you're actually not improving at all and you're just staying where you are and you're basically being enabled? Where's the limit?
Yeah, I hear that, and it's gonna be different for everyone, right? And I wanna also, like, offer a little perspective shift here too, where it's like, it's not that you're soft, it's that you're softening. And when you start to soften, you start to soften all those walls that you put up to protect yourself. And those walls are not only protecting like from the negative things, but they're preventing the really beautiful things from coming in too. And so as you soften and you take down those walls, you let in more love, you let in more abundance, you let in more joy, you let in more connection, right? And so I just want to offer that perspective because it's not that you're soft, and being soft is not a bad thing. It just means that you're actually more capable of healing, growing, and expanding and living a life that does feel really good for you. And so when it comes to finding that balance, that's what feels good for you, right? Like, how much structure do you need in your day? How much time do you need to just like sit and be and to receive and to just like not do anything? Everyone needs that. And so if you think you don't, you're wrong.
True. And at what point do you feel you need to look around you and say, like, okay, I need to get off my ass and get better?
Mhm.
Because, like, the point is to get better, you know? The
Yeah.
point is to be, like, respectfully, Leia, like you. I
Yeah.
see, like I said, you look pretty vigorous, you look pretty healthy. I look at your social media, like, you're like, Jesus, like, calm down, bro. You're always hiking, you're always swimming. I don't know if you're surfing, but like stuff like that. You're always active.
Yeah.
So at what point do you realize, okay, too much softness, time to like get out there and like take ownership of my life because no one else is going to.
It's a matter for me of checking in every day. And I think that's really important is being able to have that dialogue with yourself, that discernment of knowing where your limits are and when you get to step in a different direction. And that's one of the things that I work with my clients on is helping them recognize like when is enough? Like where are my limits? Where are my boundaries? What are my values? And how can I have this continuous dialogue with myself to keep myself in alignment on the path towards my goals and in a direction that does feel good for me.
Right. True. So then that's where I want to segue into the stuff you do for your clients.
Totally.
Because you say the medical system that as it stands now in Canada, even in the States, let's be honest, is not adequate. You know, they're so crap at treating chronic, but they're so good at treating emergencies because they leave the chronic until it becomes an emergency.
Yes.
They don't
Yeah.
prevent, they don't give us like the right nutrition. They don't give us like preventative treatment like physiotherapy. Me, I'm a big proponent of physiotherapy. I
Mhm.
think it's one of the most untapped potential of healthcare in the world. Like they don't put us towards these avenues. So where today's healthcare system has failed, what are these alternative treatments that you're promoting to your clients? Like, like I just mentioned, physiotherapy and all that stuff. Like, where do you find the biggest improvements? And please don't mention crystals.
I do actually use crystals, but I'm not like a crystal fanatic. Crystals are rocks and they hold a lot of energy and power from the earth, which is what, in my opinion, we need to connect more with, right? Is source energy. But I'm not like a crystal fanatic. I have a couple that I'm like, oh, I really like that one. But anyways,
I got you a bit at the end there.
yeah, I will actually can I tangent off of that really
Of
quickly?
course.
Okay.
It's
So
you're the guest, go for it.
one of the things that I do, and I don't do this for money anymore. This was a big shift that I made this past year. But for the majority of my life, I've been a pain management specialist, a massage therapist, and a functional movement practitioner. And
Mhm.
so people would come to me with chronic pain, and I would help them through body work, through movement therapies, similar to a way a physio works, but a little bit outside the box. And I wasn't diagnosing, I was assessing. So a little bit of a
Mhm.
difference there. But, anyways, I now get to do my medicinal body work for my friends and for people, particularly when I feel called to be of service, which feels really nice to not have to do it for money. And I actually had a friend come in this week and we had one of the most powerful bodywork sessions. He got on my table. He's been moving through a lot mentally and emotionally. And right before he came into me, and this kind of comes into like developing that relationship with that knowledge and your internal dialogue. Right before he got to my house, I had this call to go out to my car and get this crystal that had been in my car. And this crystal is a really special crystal to me. It's this, I don't think I have it in here at the moment, but it's this really heavy, large rock in the shape of I love it, in the shape of a heart. I love Zoom.
See, that doesn't happen for me.
I don't know why. I want you to have that love,
It's
but
not
it's not
fair. It's
working.
it's really not fair. I don't get those. It's
So
my
anyway,
channel, damn it.
I felt like it's my give me the love, give me it. So, yeah, so I felt really called to go get this crystal. I'm like, okay, so I got to my car, bring it in, had no idea why. And so we're in this bodywork session, and I'm guiding him through some visualization while I'm doing the session and helped him connect with a younger version of himself to bring in some healing with that age. And I start to work on his hips, and I just could energetically feel this. His hips were just stuck. They were holding so much like energy that was just holding him down and weighing him down. And we weren't having verbal dialogue during this time. We talked about it after. And I just had this immediate call and spirit, God, source, whoever you speak to and you relate with. I was called to put
Elon
this
Musk.
yeah,
I'm kidding, man. Yeah.
maybe actually, yes.
I pray to Elon Musk.
So I felt called to put this crystal right on his sacrum. right on the back of his pelvis, where his tailbone is, and guided him through this experience where I had him breathing in and holding space for all that he was holding in his pelvis, and then on that exhale, he was driving the energy up his spine and out his mouth to like expel it, to get it out. And afterwards, when we were talking and integrating after the session, he said to me, he was like, when you put that crystal on my pelvis, he said, I felt everything in my pelvis just get sucked up and out of my body. Like all of the heaviness, all of the darkness, everything that was in my pelvis just immediately was just like sucked away. And it's little things like that where it's so important to really develop that connection with your intuition, because not only is it going to help you, but it's going to help the people around you. And so that was a really cool experience. I don't do a lot of body work these days. I love it and I'm really good at it. It's just not what I want to do for income. But you asked me what I do for my clients, so now transitioning into that. So I hold a lot of different kinds of spaces. I work with clients one-on-one, which is actually one of my favorite ways to work with people, because I then get to work with them in 3 or 6 month containers where I really get to drop in. We get to develop a relationship. We get to bring in a sense of intimacy. I really get to know them in a way where I can reflect things back to them that are really powerful and give them the opportunity to create more shift and deeper change within themselves. So I love working one-on-one with clients. And when I do that, I get to bring in all of my witchery, my witchcraft. We're going to leave it at that. Right. So I get to bring in all my tools. I
Your
get to
alternative systems.
correct all my alternative tools. um, my dad calls me a witch and I like it, but it's fine.
You're probably flattered though. Like, is it a compliment to you?
I like it. It flatters me. Please call me a witch. I'll take it. Um, Anyways, so, in one-on-one sessions with clients when I'm working in those containers, I get to help them with chronic pain. I get to help them with movement. I get to help them learn how to massage different areas of their body to relieve pain. I also get to help them with like the subconscious reprogramming and limiting beliefs and the mindset. I get to help them with metabolic health and understanding what supplements to take and how to support the things that their body is healing through. And then I get to be just this beautiful reflector to them, or for them, I should say, so that they can look at the relationships in their life, so that they can have healthier love, so that they can communicate more effectively, so that they can expand their business and look at the ways that they're maybe not showing up for their business. I get to do so much in those one-on-one containers that just, I love it so much. So I offer one-on-one work with clients where we do all the things, all the alternative holistic things. And I also have a couple of other ways I work with clients. 2024, I'm starting to host retreats. So we're in the planning process of retreats right now. There's going to be a co-ed retreat. There's also going to be a women's only retreat in 2024. So if you're interested in either of those, you can follow along. I also have a women's membership, lower cost women's membership, and this is where I have 2 calls a month with not clients, but with the sisters. One of them is like an educational embodiment, like diving deeper into yourself and reflecting on yourself. That's one of the calls. The other call is a tea talk where we get together, we get to have our favorite drink, and we actually get to connect with the sisters. So I break women out into smaller breakout rooms, and they really get to know each other on a more personal level, get to support each other, hear what they're going through, reflect back to each other. On top of that, I have my signature 16-week program, which used to be a live group program. It still can be, but I'm transitioning it into a self-paced course. It's called the Mind Body Initiative. And this is a program that has literally everything that I have learned, that has supported me, that I guide my clients through. It has all of that. It helps you look at your physical health, your movement, helps you look at your thoughts, your relationships, helps you learn all these tools to better support all these different areas of your life: the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the energetic. And it gives you the ability to reflect, to ask yourself questions, and to dive deeper into your healing. And so you can do that on your own through the self-paced course. There's also an option to opt into group coaching where I meet with clients every week as they're going through the program, and they can ask me anything. They can get any support that they want. And it's a little bit more interactive versus like doing it all by yourself, which healing and growing, I just don't think should be by yourself. So, and then I offer on a weekly basis, I offer free coaching and support for my community. And so, also, if that's something that you're interested in, I'm doing that on Facebook right now. So, yeah, if you're interested in any of these, if you want to know more, I would absolutely love for you to be a part of my community. Come ask me anything. I love to support people. I love to connect with people. I'm a very like nurturing person, just at heart. It's who I
I think
am.
that's quite apparent.
So, yeah, I love connecting with human beings, and I love being a mirror so that they can reflect deeper on themselves and just like expand the capacity in their heart and expand their like impact and opportunities in the world.
And as I said, that's pretty apparently. I'm really loving your energy. I was going to say, uh, give your pitch at the end, but that was the best pitch I've ever seen. A lot of energy, a lot of information. So I will ask right before we have you share your social media with us. Leah, do you have a parting message to the audience? Not just
Mm.
the gals, but the guys as well.
Everyone. Yeah, everyone's welcome to my world, men and women. Um, my parting message. I I just want you to know that like wherever you're at in your world and whatever challenges you're facing and whatever you're currently experiencing in your life, that you are not the victim of that. That you always have the opportunity to create change, to do something different. You can always, and know it's scary, but you can always step into a something different. And stepping into the unknown can be scary, but it's always worth it. And I just really want the listener here to know that like there's always an option. You always have a choice. And that's something I say all the time. It's always your choice because it is. You don't have to stay in the darkness. You don't have to stay connected to your mental health challenges. You don't have to stay connected and like controlled by your diagnosis. Like you can always change anything about your life, anything. And if you're unsure of how to do that, or if you're confused and just like feeling stuck and you don't know what direction to go, please message me. Like, reach out to me on social media. I am here to hold space. I'm here to talk to you. I'm here to be like just a person, like, regardless of whether you come into any of my experiences, programs, or coaching or anything. Like, I'm here to connect with you and to support you in any way that I can. So, I just want you to know that you always have a choice and your life gets to be amazing. It gets to be beautiful and it gets to be something that brings love and joy, even when things feel really dark and challenging.
It's fucking beautiful. And Leah, please share with us your social media so people can find you for that help.
Of course. So you can find me on social media at Mind Body with Leah, Leah. You see my name there on all platforms. You can find me there on Instagram. I tend to hang out there. And on Facebook, you can find me. Leah Drew is my name on Facebook. And if you want to go to one place to get like all the links and all the things, my website is leahdrew.com. There's a free opt in that you can also opt into there. So I have a new workshop that I just hosted called the Awareness Seeker Workshop, which is a beautiful way to just reflect on like where you're at in your world right now and what are the things that might get to change and you might want to change. So I'll drop the link to that. This is the Holistic Healing Tribe. This is where I share all the things about like health and healing and wellness. We'll pop you onto my email list for some just like really juicy, fun tips and tricks and reflections. So, yeah, lots of places. I'll give you all the links so you can put them in the bio. But if you have any questions, find me on social media and reach out.
Perfect. Leah, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your very positive and invigorating energy. You have certainly woken me up for the time being. That and the coffee.
No, it wasn't the guy I was going to say. I know you're drinking coffee over there.
I'm not drinking coffee. I'm chewing on coffee. I did not filter this. What was I thinking?
Ooh, yuck.
Somehow I like it, but honestly, thanks.
I've never
You're
heard somebody
laughing at
tell
me.
me. I've never heard somebody tell me that they like crunchy coffee before. That's a first.
It's a trip. But yeah, also, yeah, thanks for appearing on, guys. As she said, follow her social media. All the links are down below. And if you guys haven't already done so, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this video because doing so helps us grow. The more we grow, the more amazing guests we can bring on. Hint, hint. No, no, that's not fair. No, see, it's not. No, that's not fair. See, I'm not getting the hearts.
I'll do extras for you
How do you
so you
even?
can. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It's just
You know,
like
fuck
my.
this shit. It's not even working.
We love you. Thank you so much, George. I really appreciate you having me here. It's been such an amazing, amazing conversation, and just really appreciate the space that you held and that you just the message that you're sharing with the world. It's important.
You're too kind to me, Leah. Thanks for being on. Everyone out there, have a great day. Jesus, why'd you get all? Never mind. Never mind.